May 30th. 542. Arthur, a British prince, died. He was a victorious warrior against the surrounding nations, and is celebrated as the founder of the Knights of the Round Table, at Winchester. 1216. Louis of France, at the invitation of the rebel English barons, crossed the Channel with 680 sail, and landed at Sandwich. 1252. The Epic of the Alphonsine Tables, constructed by Hazan, a Jew, by order of Alfonso the Wise, commencing with the day of his accession to the throne of Leon and Castile. 1416. Jerome of Prague, burned for the heresy of Protestantism, at Constance, and suffered with great fortitude. 1431. Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orleans, burned at Rouen, for sorcery and intercourse with infernal spirits, by the English. Chapelain celebrated her in 12 times, 1200 verses. Southey has made her the subject of an epic, and Schiller of a tragedy. 1484. Charles VIII the Affable, inaugurated at Reims, in his 15th year. He was met at the gates by a young damsel, habited as Flora, who delivered him the keys of the city. 1498. Columbus sailed from the port of St. Lucar to Barrameda, with a squadron of 6 vessels, on his 3rd voyage of discovery, with additional powers. The Indians were to wear a mark of brass or lead coin about their necks, which were to be exchanged for others on the payment of their tribute money. 1521. The Spaniards under Cortés invested Mexico with 917 Spaniards and 75,000 Indians, which were soon increased to 200,000, and 15 smaller of copper, 1,000 Castilian pounds of gunpowder and a large quantity of balls and arrows, the strength of his little army having doubled by the supplies from Spain and the Antilles. The Spanish troops, in proceeding to their posts, in commencing the siege, had several engagements with the Mexicans. In attempting to break the aqueduct of Chapultepec to cut off the water from the city, a powerful resistance was made. At one assault, so thick was the shower of arrows, darts, and stones, which were shot at them, that 8 Spaniards were killed, and more than 50 wounded, and they were with difficulty able to retreat to Tlacopan, where they encamped. 1539. Ferdinand de Soto landed on the west coast of Florida, in search of gold. He is supposed to have wandered over many of the southern states, but being disappointed in his great object, he returned without effecting a settlement. 1574. Charles IX, of France, died, aged 25. It was during his reign that the fatal massacre of St. Bartholomew's took place, which renders his name odious. 1577. Martin Frobisher, the English navigator, sailed on his 2nd voyage for the discovery of a northwest passage to India. He coasted Greenland and Labrador, and returned with 200 tons of glittering stones and sand, which he had mistaken for gold ore. 1640. Peter Paul Rubens, the celebrated Flemish painter, died. He was also a statesman, and a man of learning. 1654. Christina of Sweden abdicated the throne, on which occasion she caused a medal to be struck, with the motto, "Parnassus is worth more than a throne." 1658. Prince of Conde, at the head of 2,000 cavalry, threw himself into Cambrai, then besieged by Marshal Turenne. 1663. Denis Dicello, the inventor of literary journals, published the first number of the French journal Des Souvenirs. 1676. Hatfield, Massachusetts, burned by the Indians. The town was attacked by about 600 of the enemy, while the men were all out in the fields at work except one, who was very old. They burned 12 houses and barns without the fortification, and drove away the cattle and sheep. The news of this affair having reached the neighboring town of Hadley, 25 resolute young men hastened to the scene of desolation, and charged the savages with such undaunted courage, that 5 or 6 of them fell at the first shot, and making their way through the thickest of the Indians, they threw themselves into the garrison, with the loss of 5 of their number, who fell. As they were entering the town, the enemy, amazed at the resolution of this little band, and having lost 25 of their number, fled from the place immediately, with their booty. 1688. Pere Gerbolon, one of the French Jesuit missionaries who accompanied Du Halde to China, set out on his first journey into Tartary. His travels are published at length in the great work of Du Halde. See April 1, 96, May 24, 98, October 13, 98. 1718. Bernard Nieuwentyde, a Dutch writer on mathematics, died. 1744. Alexander Pope died, the celebrated English poet and epistolary writer. 1756. Elizabeth Elstob, an English literary lady, died. She was skilled in 8 languages, and published a Saxon grammar. 1764. Simon Sack, died at Triania, aged 141. 1770. Fireworks in honor of the marriage of Louis XVI, of France, when about 1,100 persons were crushed to death in the crowd. 1775. Americans burnt the Mansion House on Noddle's Island, and carried off the cattle. 1778. Marie-Francis Arouet de Voltaire, the celebrated French philosopher, died. He was an extraordinary man, of whom it has been said, he was a freethinker in London, a Cartesian in Versailles, a Christian in Nancy, and an infidel in Berlin. In society, he was alternately an Aristippus and a Diogenes. For versatility of talent, his equal has, perhaps, never appeared. 1796. Battle of Borgetto. Bonaparte defeated the Austrians. 1799. The editor, printer and publisher of the London Courier, were fined and imprisoned for saying that the Emperor of Russia was a tyrant among his own subjects, and ridiculous to the rest of Europe. 1801. John Miller, who wrote a historical view of the English government, died at Glasgow. 1804. Jefferson issued a proclamation erecting the district of Mobile. 1806. Bonaparte issued a decree calling an assembly of Jewish deputies, for the purpose of forming a Sanhedrin. 1813. American privateer Yankee, 16 guns, captured British brig Thames, 14 guns. Cargo sold for $180,000. 1814. Treaty of Paris, between Louis XVIII and the Allied sovereigns. The latter left Paris the same day, on a visit to England. 1826. John Beatty, a general officer in the War of the American Revolution, died. 1832. James Mackintosh, an English statesman, died. Known by his History of England, he was employed principally in the affairs of India, during which he found time for literary pursuits. 1833. John Malcolm, a general in the India service, died. He distinguished himself as a soldier, statesman and scholar. He contributed much information respecting the history and present condition of Persia. 1837. Christopher Brown, a soldier of the Revolution, died at Philadelphia, aged 107. 1844. The Irish agitator Daniel O'Connell, sentenced to fine and imprisonment. 1848. Battle of Goito, Italy. The Austrians defeated by the King of Sardinia. 1848. Ratifications of the treaty between the United States and Mexico exchanged with the latter government at Querétaro. 1848. General Herrera elected President of Mexico by 11 states against 5. 1854. 3 British steamers destroyed the ships, dockyards and stores at Brehistad, in the north of the Gulf of Bothnia. 1854. The Turks made a sortie from Silistria, and killed 3,000 Russians in the trenches. 1854. Peregrine Maitland, a British officer, died, aged 76. He served at Walcheren, in the peninsula at Corunna, and at Waterloo, for his services on the Nive. As commander of the 1st Brigade of Guards, he received a medal. He had been Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada and Nova Scotia, and Commander-in-Chief of the Madras Army. 1856. The ship Pallas, sailing from Cork to Quebec, struck the breakers off St. Paul's Island and bilged. Of 120 passengers, 72 were drowned.